When I joined Gobundance, I just pictured all of these guys that were on the same journey. Like they were all polished. They were doing all the same things that I was doing every day. Like, I was just like, to be successful, everybody has done all the things that I'm trying to do. I'm at that point where I want to accelerate in life. One of the things that I did not expect is how unnerving it was to be around people that were trying to deliver you value with nothing in return.
What does anyone do? I'm just kidding. In Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Like, tell me about that. Are you from there? Give me kind of your upbringing through today.
Yeah, I'm not originally from South Dakota. I've lived here twice in my life now. My wife and I moved up here. My wife's a physician, and so we ended up here. I was originally from Nebraska, or I lived in Kansas and Missouri, but the first time we lived here, my wife came up here to do a residency for 3 years, and so that was the first stop in Sioux Falls. We came up here 3 years, and then we moved back for 10 years, and then life kind of happened, and we always said we'd move back and had an opportunity when things got a little bit crazy with our jobs. When we were 40, it was like, hey, we need to slow things down, and so we moved back to Sioux Falls. We still had a bunch of friends here that were had some opportunities, and they're like, yeah, you guys don't need to work and be crazy like that. Have you ever thought about moving back? So yeah, it's interesting that I'm not from here, but I've lived here twice now. So yeah, it's good.
What's the draw? What's the draw to Sioux Falls? Sell Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Other than the state income tax.
Is it zero? Is it a 0%?
It's zero. It's zero. Nice. It's a nice town. I mean, Sioux Falls is I would classify it as like, it's a super clean town. It's always going to be like the top 10 towns living in the nation, and it's kind of a hub. It's got a bunch of big corporate businesses out of there, a lot of financial businesses like Citigroup there, Wells Fargo Financial. It's got more trust than anywhere in the United States. And a big hospital system that services. It's just a big hub. So it's a smaller town, but it services.
What's the population? City and then MSA.
About 200,000, and I don't know if it might be 220, 240 like MSA. But yeah, it's growing. I mean, it's grown steadily for years and years and years.
It's a beautiful part of the country, no doubt about it. I mean, the cold weather is the part that, obviously doesn't attract people, but Boise has had a lot of migration. Are you seeing sort of that West Coast migration, that California migration? Is Sioux Falls? I hadn't heard of Sioux Falls as a city that's seeing kind of an influx, but is it?
Yeah, I would say that we saw, especially during COVID, we had a lot of influx of people that were moving here. I would say you're not seeing, there's some of that influx from the coast that you're seeing from, if they're here, if they're a specialist in some kind of hospital capacity, or a financial person, a lot of corporate businesses are here. You'll see those people. But you're seeing just a lot of influx from kind of like the Midwest. You're seeing people, we did see people during COVID that came out here and opened gyms from New York City and things like that. They just, they needed the ability to run businesses more than anything. So,
yeah, I'm looking at the population trend, and honestly, it's kind of shocking when I pulled it up.
Yeah,
it's a pretty intense population chart. I never thought of Sioux Falls, South Dakota as a bit of a boomtown right now, but it looks like it is, at least population wise, which is great.
Yeah, and it's been I'm not pulling up the chart. It's probably that for 20 or 30 years. It's just been a steady growth. So yeah, I mean that's part of the draw too. Is just the energy of a town that's growing steadily is pretty awesome to see. I've lived in a town. I grew up in rural Nebraska, and I've lived in a town that was going the other way, and it's definitely the energy are different for sure.
Yeah, same in upstate New York. Those towns are all going the wrong way. So I feel you on that. What do you do in Sioux Falls, South Dakota? What does the day-to-day look like for you?
Day-to-day, I work as a ag chem sales rep. So I work for a company. I work from home and travel a good portion of the state of Minnesota. So I've done that for close to 20 years, worked from home and travel to sales territory. So I would joke like I'm a kind of a OG when it comes to home office and and doing work from home. So yeah, I'm a factory rep for an ag chemical company. So anything that needs taken care of on a local level, I'm the person to contact. Yep.
I guess I didn't appreciate. I'm looking at it now. Sioux Falls is, I mean, like you could trip into Minnesota from there. It looks like.
Yeah, it's 10 miles.
And Iowa.
Iowa's 15 miles. Yeah, so we're right on the border of. I mean, it's definitely a border though. It's when you're from South Dakota to Minnesota. But yeah,
what do you mean?
They're close.
What does that mean? It's definitely a border. Explain that.
When you get into Minnesota, I would say that it's a pretty hard border. Like it's not a very commingled border. I would say that. Like it's.
Well, what happens? Do they beat you at the border? Like this is scaring me. What happens when you go across the border?
No, I mean the politics change a little bit when you get into.
Sure.
Minnesota's a pretty, I would say, diverse politics, and then you get into South Dakota's fairly conservative. So yeah, it's just it changes a lot of a lot of it revolves around farming communities and who settled these original towns. That's I get into Minnesota, it's a lot of Dutch people settled those towns, and it goes back 100 years. Yeah, it's always interesting to see.
Is there an Austin effect potentially happening then? Because I would imagine 0% state income tax, so close to the border. I think about Austin. I mean, it's more like San Francisco moving to Austin and then bringing. And I never get this, bringing their politics. We got to get out of this crazy city, but do it our way. Are you seeing that at all in Sioux Falls? Is there sort of a migration of more of the, I don't want to say like liberals, but you get my point, like more of a liberal mindset that's maybe permeating Sioux Falls a little bit?
Yeah, it's a little bit more moderate. This city is. You're going to see you're going to see a few more Biden, things in
Harris flags or whatever.
Yeah, and then you're going to see so yeah, there's definitely it's more moderate. I would say that I think people say like I've heard people say like Austin's in Texas, but it's not of Texas. There's probably some people in South Dakota would be like, yeah, Sioux Falls is in South Dakota, but it's not of South Dakota. I don't know if that's quite that, but it doesn't have the live music scene or anything like that. But yeah.
Got you. Sales, you said were ag chem. Can you explain that? Does that mean to be ag what? I'm sorry?
Agricultural chemicals. So like
herbicides,
pesticides, insecticides. So I work mainly with like larger accounts that are utilizing those products for the company I work for.
What do you make of it, if anything? I'm curious, and if not, we could just move on. But Bobby Kennedy's talked a lot about Roundup chemicals in certain or elements of certain chemicals for killing weeds or pesticides or whatever it might be. I don't know. You tell me how far down that rabbit hole you are, if at all. That's about as far as I've gone. Like, oh, that's interesting. Roundup has a chemical that's not good. But what's the story there, if you know, and what's the perspective, if any?
I mean, they're all trace. They're all products of chemicals. I think Roundup's rather safe. I wouldn't drink it.
But what is it? What is the chemical? Like, what is this thing that's getting such controversy? Do you know?
Yeah, it's glyphosate is the active ingredient in that.
And what's the push? I mean, it's a chemical. I mean, I get that it's not.
Yeah, so the pushback was that it's widely used across, has been for years and years and years. And I don't want to get too deep in this because there's still pending lawsuits. And but yeah, there were some people that were exposed to it year after year after year, for 30 or 40 years, and then developed some cancers too. So yeah, I would say there's a lot of concerns out there in this world of things that are floating around from everywhere, I was
going to say that sounds like one of many. That sounds like one of it.
I would classify that too. If I was going to put it on a list, like, yeah, it would be one of many. Yeah.
Right. That makes perfect sense. Okay. Yeah. Said your wife's a physician. Tell me a little bit about the family to the extent you're comfortable sharing. So married, kids, boys, girls, ages, all that good stuff.
Yeah. I'm married with two boys, 12 and 7. So a lot of fun there. It's a little bit like a fraternity house once in a while. And
same.
Yeah, this past weekend I made the boys wash their bathroom from ceiling to floor with Lysol in 2 buckets. I'm like, I don't know what I'm sure you have some boys. I'm like, I don't know what you two doing here or what you've done. Like, but we're gonna wipe this down from floor to ceiling. Like, get after it. So yeah, it's always interesting to see him kind of evolve and grow up.
There's no control is the issue in the bathroom. Like when they wake up, for instance, in the morning, they just go, no matter where it's going to land.
Yeah.
They just go. They don't know how to directionally do it. My kids go outside more than they do in the bathroom. They love going outside. Like if they could be 5 steps from the bathroom, but they will run outside to pee in the grass. Yours?
Yeah, they would if you let them. I say I live like in a little forested area, and yeah, it's always interesting to see, like, once in a while our ring camera will catch them, like, peeing off the front porch, or it's like, guys, like,
that's
come
boys.
On.
That's boys. Like, one day we'll laugh at them. One day we'll laugh.
I know.
What's up, Tribe listeners? I want to talk about our sponsor for today's episode, Gobundance, the tribe for healthy, wealthy, generous people who choose to live epic lives. It's a tribe I've been a part of for 5 years now, and I keep coming back year after year because of the quality of the connections and interactions that I get and the accountability that I get toward the goals that I'm looking to achieve. Gobundance has meant everything to me, so I'm really, really proud to sit here on the Tribe of Millionaires podcast and tell you a little bit about Gobundance. Here's the thing. Why do you live where you live? Think about it. Why do you live in the neighborhood you live in, or the apartment building you live in, or wherever it might be? Usually, people move into a community because of the quality of the neighbors and all of the amenities that are available to them. And then they go about using those amenities and leveraging that community to the best of their ability for growth. They make connections with neighbors, lifelong friendships, things that serve them. We want that for ourselves, for our wives or husbands, and our children. That's what Gobundance is at the next level. Imagine if you're a man moving into a community of other millionaire men that are driven toward being the best versions of themselves as fathers, as husbands, in their health, in their relationships, in their contribution, you name it. That's what Gobundance provides. For me, it's been everything. I get with my Gobundance brothers on a weekly basis and I tell them, this is where I'm trying to go. Things I can't share with the regular folks in my life, my friends, my family that I've known forever. They only know me for who I've been. Gobundance guys, they know me only for who I'm becoming. And when I deviate, when I go off course from being that guy, from taking action toward being that guy, that's when they step in, that's when they hold me accountable, and that's what accelerates my growth. Go to Gobundance.com right now and apply. If you're a millionaire and a man, Gobundance.com. If you're a woman and a millionaire, GobundanceWomen.com. And if you're not quite a millionaire, go to GobundanceEmerge.com and you join me in the community that I've created in partnership with Gobundance to get yourself to that place of being what we call a whole life millionaire. Gobundance.com. You can start there, see everything that we have to offer. It's an incredible community. I can't wait for you to be a part of it. Now, back to the show.
I know.
Oh, boy. All right. Let's dive into the Gobundance questions. We're going to start with the first question. First 2 are around pillars. So to remind everybody, our pillars, I always say this every week. I should write these down, but I'm going to try to do them from memory. Our extreme accountability, authentic relationships, bucket list adventure, horizontal income, age-defying health, and genuine contribution. Good job, Jamie. In which of those 6 pillars, Mr. Bose, are you crushing it?
Yeah, I think that the authentic relationships, especially with my family, they've been solid and they continue to be solid. It's and part of it was just moving when we were, making that we both made career moves and moved back, and we kind of almost like had a contract with each other. It was like, hey, like, we're gonna move again. We're at a point where we're gonna double down on the family and make that important. So that's that relationship with my wife and family is just, it's really been solid. Yeah, that would be the thing that I would say that I'm crushing it. Yeah.
That's great, man. That's a great thing to crush it in. Let's flip it around.
Yeah.
What is one pillar you could use more support and accountability in?
Yeah. So I think about extreme accountability. I think about just like I need accountability from others or feedback from others. I do well, just my personality type, and I do pretty well when people coach. I've always been well coached, like coached hard. I let things things don't bother me. If you looked at a disc analysis, that would be like a high C. Like things just like they're not going to get to me. So that's the extreme accountability is kind of one of the things that I really miss in my life a little bit too. And I think part of it too is just working from home. You don't have that. I think a lot of people are going to face some of these struggles going forward of you don't have people to walk in and help you out every day and, kind of lift you up or correct you when things are, when you're not doing your best. That's one of the things that I think is going to be missing. I know you've managed a team before, but it's, I think about how hard I've managed people too, like how hard it'd be to manage teammates or people when they work remotely. Like that's pretty hard to do. So yeah.
There's a lot of companies are forcing back into the office. I get it. I do. I really get it. People, there's a loss of productivity, no doubt. And just the element of tribe, right? Community. When you're around other people, there's thoughts and, somebody's having a bad day, you can be picked up by the other. Isolation is good in some ways, but it doesn't make for the most productivity. So no, I completely get that. All right. Where in your life, my friend, are you potentially flirting with disaster?
Yeah. I mean, still it's like that male friendship for me is still, I would say that is one of those things. It's a struggle for me. And a lot of it is I've moved quite a bit in my life. I've moved probably every 3 to 5 years. And so it's hard to, set down those friendships along the way when you move quite a bit. And again, working from, not being from a town, working from home, just all those things stack up to where you can let those things slide. So yeah, Gobundance has been, that was one of the selling points. Absolutely. It's like, oh, I need people around me. I need male friendships more than anything. So, but if I don't pay attention to it, it can slide pretty quick and I can get back into bad habits.
Okay. We might touch back on that. I'm going to go to the next question, but there's something interesting in there and you might answer it. So I don't want to take it away from one of these questions, but in what specific way has Gobundance impacted your life? Yeah,
I would say that my short time here, it's been really like my own confidence in myself. One of the things that I've gone on a self-help, journey here over the last 5 years. And when I joined Gobundance, I pictured all of these guys in the group that were on the same journey, like they were all polished and they were doing all the same things that I was doing every day. Like, I was just like, to be successful, everybody has done all the things that I'm trying to do. And one of the things when I joined, I was like, I just gave confidence in myself. Like I'd done a lot of the groundwork that people that were successful, maybe a lot of them hadn't done yet. There was like, oh, have you guys looked at, have you read this book or have you done this? And there was a lot of them that were like, no, I haven't done that. So it really gave me the confidence, like, man, I'm at that point where I want to accelerate in life and I've done the groundwork. I've laid that out there personally. And it's given me a lot of confidence. And then, the age defying health, I've lost probably 20, 25 pounds. All my health pillars are getting better and better. And I would say that the trajectory, if you were going to look at it, when you're 45, I'm not making, it's not like, they're good changes along the way. They're slow, deliberate, and the habits are there. The ones that they're going to be there in 30 years. So So
it's there's so things hard, I was talking to my wife is 38 and, so her metabolism is starting to slow down. I'm 44. And I said to her, I'm like, listen, like as an old man here, but there is something around the mid-30s where any deviation is unforgiving. And what I mean is, like, there's a point in life where I could eat crappy food all the time.
Yep.
And as long as I was somewhat active, nothing really impacted me. When you hit your mid-30s, you're like, okay, I'm going to eat better. And you can get to like 35, 40, and now 44, 45. You can do 95% good stuff in your diet, like 95%. And then just like on the weekends, I have a couple beers and I eat some whatever. But it's like, it literally impedes like the 5% of bad that you do in your diet overwhelms the rest. So you're right. You have to embed little habits to chip away and almost be perfect in order to optimize your health. Now, if you don't want to be like ripped with a six pack, I get that. And neither do I, but it is amazing how you do learn, like, you can't be 80% or 90% of the way there with your health and expect even marginal outcomes that you want. And it's like an annoying truth I'm learning in my 40s. Yeah,
no, I think there's it's for sure. I think, but I think we all get better at like doubling down on it too. It's like, oh, now, I mean, I do things that I would never think about. Like one of my habits per quarter was I was looking implementing a health habit is like eye cream and face cream. I'm like, you know what? When I'm 65, I don't want my eyes to be wrinkly and old. Like those are things that I got to implement now. It's like
you have to. Otherwise you won't get there. Yeah. What you said you lost 25 pounds. What are the habits or the changes that you've made that have led to that change for you?
I've tried. I think just being around a group of people that are fit. It's just your environment. I did do the continuous glucose monitor for a couple weeks, and I mean I kind of knew a lot of the things along there, but it was just eye-opening to really, like, there's a difference between knowing it and actually seeing what your body or how it reacts to different foods and exercise and sleep and all those kind of things. That really kind of catapulted a couple changes. It was like, okay, I'm no longer guessing here. I'm like, I know what I need to do. So that's probably, exercise almost every day and eat relatively healthy. But that's been one of the more interesting things. If people haven't done that, it's just interesting to see how your body reacts to certain foods. And
that is great.
Again, what you can get away with and what you can't. And
Yep. Dave Vanderlaan is a gober out of Chicago. His wife does that for a living. I talked to him the other day about getting involved with them because they'll all of the monitoring, what causes inflammation, what doesn't, where your diet could be, like you're individualized based on your blood, your stool, your urine, all of that. I think you're right. It's a great way to go about it. Very cool. All right. What advice would you give to a new or prospective member of any Gobundance community?
I would say the first thing, and I stole this from one of your podcasts before I even joined, is just to give value first to others and expect nothing in return.
Well, you didn't steal it. That's something like, why do you say that? How have you learned that?
I probably heard it. I don't know if I really stole it because I've heard it 10 or 15, you hear it all again and again and again. But when I joined, I was like, okay, I want to get the most out of it. So that I just came in, just trying to deliver value. And then my idea of like what value is to others has changed. When I was younger, I was thinking value is monetary, but kind of that, just getting that mindset shift of what value is to others. And then,
what is it for you? Like, define that. Like I always say, the value I offer generally is like, I'm a good connector. I like to hear a story and say, oh, you should meet so-and-so. Like that's the value I provide. It's not some crazy knowledge about the economy or how to get 6-pack abs. It's that. For you, is there something that you kind of are as a go-to for you as far as value add, or is it more specific to the individual?
Kind of my superpowers is I'm a visionary. I can usually generally see things in people before they can see them in themselves.
So true.
And then I've spent so much time with personal development and growth. Like I've got a library of good or bad, if things in the back of my mind when somebody has a problem, like, hey, this is like, you need to check out this book, or somebody says, I want to start something. Like, I have a pretty good idea of like, okay, or they say, I need to do a personality test. I'm like, okay, I've done 5 of these tests. Here's where you need to start. Like, this is the one to start with. So those are the things that I've banked up along the way.
Which one do you start with? Sorry, on the personality test, you got me curious.
I start with DISC.
DISC.
I start with DISC.
What do you graduate to? Is there like hey, once you get DISC established, is there one that you think is like the next level?
I think they're all so different. The one that I really, and I think just because it's more universal, you'll see it, like my wife uses it within her. I've done probably 8 DISC analysis in my life through different corporations I've worked for. My wife uses it. It's just probably the most universal to talk about. I like the one. There's one too that go put your strengths to work. That one's a good one too.
Strength Finder, is that?
It's not Strength Finders. It's not something. It's not a Gallup, like the Gallup Strength Finder. It's go put your strengths to work, and that really talks about like, that's an interesting conversation of whether you double down. One's like double down on your strengths. Don't try to pick your weaknesses up. That's always the.
I agree with that. I get leery of the advice that you should go work on your weaknesses. It's like, not that you shouldn't, you just ignore or whatever, but you really should double down on strengths. I love DISC as well. You said it in corporate. I was exposed to it and I got really, really kind of geeked out on it. I'm a high I and then D.
Yeah.
You can tell. I
could have picked that out. Yeah. They're the easiest to pick out. Yeah.
Look at me.
Yeah.
Right. But the one downside of DISC, it's not DISC itself, but I think the way people interpret DISC sometimes is that they see whatever their high is. They're a high C, they're a high I. It means that they can't do something else or be something else or they can't exist in another. So in other words, if you're a high C, highly analytical, and you're a low I, I think people are like, oh yeah, I don't socialize or I don't do that because I'm a high C. It's like, no. Now, if you're under a 50, it means it expends energy for you to do it. You could do anything. If you're over a 50, it means that you gain energy from doing it. So like if you're a C, you could probably spend all day in a spreadsheet and then go in and like optimize that spreadsheet. I don't know, but like, that's what I picture C's, right? Like you like to think deeply and introspectively, and you don't want to be in a crowd of 1,000 people and glad handing the whole room. You can do it, but you probably need to go up to the hotel room afterward and get a relief, right? For me to sit down and like analyze something, like I'm drained after an hour. I want to punch myself, but put me on 8 podcasts in a row. Then I'm going out to dinner and I'm doing like, I'm rolling. I'm good till 2 a.m. So that's the only thing with this that people, I think, misinterpret. It's not like you are and you aren't, or you can and you can't. It's this gives you energy. This takes your energy away. Did you have something to say on that?
No, I mean, I think you're spot on where, and a lot of times I'm around people that, in sales, a lot of the, like your high D, your high I, I mean, they're the best. I mean, if I could profile, they're they're naturally attuned to sales. And you're the same, you're the way, if I go to a conference and I'm around people all day long and it gets done, and then and then dinner's at 6 o'clock, like I need an hour break to myself of just like it. I don't get like, I need to recharge to do that again that evening. So yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah. And everybody's different, and it's always good to draw on those that are our opposites for sure. Let's just have different viewpoints. So, yeah.
Did you have a second thing on advice? I feel like I might have.
No, but I would say that I did have a second thing. One of the things that I did not expect is how unnerving it was to be around people that were trying to deliver you value with nothing in return. Like I would come from a society of like, when somebody gives you something, you're like, okay, what's the ask? Like what? Sometimes we're guarded with taking value from others because you're like, oh, like now I've got like something's coming. And there was more than a few conversations that were, just like people just want to help you. It's like, this is uncomfortable. 45 years of a lot of interactions that you're just doesn't feel quite right until you get a little bit more used to it. Which is, I mean, it's a great thing, but it's not what we probably face in our day to day. It's just people trying to help others be better. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to say that we think people in this community tend to think transformationally instead of transactionally when it comes to relationships. Yeah. You know, I agree. And I think there's an unwritten and sort of known, and this isn't just Gobundance, but anybody I meet that I've gotten connection to through Gobundance, that's not in Gobundance, but highly successful in some way in their life, is there's just like I know my back is covered somehow, some way. It's not from talking to you. It's not from giving you something and I'm going to get something back, but just being in service. I'm not asking for anything, but it just sort of comes. So I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to worry about it. I'll just be in service and my back will be covered. That's what I found, at least. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the dirty secrets of the really successful is they learn along the way. It's like the more they give, the more they'll get. You know, they know, I mean, they're just not going to provide value to anybody, but they know along the way, like the more the universe works like that, it just comes back around. And so you see that people that are deep into philanthropy. I'm on a philanthropy council and
good. With Derek. Yeah.
Well, I'm in a local, local
Gobundance. Gotcha.
But you see people, you know, it's like the more they give, the more comes back to them, and they know that too. It's
I love it. I love it. All right, let's wrap this with a question from the Gobundance card game. The three of clubs. I always confuse clubs and spades. Three of clubs. That's the three.
That's the puppy's feet or the shovel. That's what I was saying. The
puppy's feet. Three of clubs. Thank you. That's good. I don't know that.
Puppy's feet or shovels.
If you could ask a single person, any person, dead or alive, one question, and they had to answer truthfully, who and what would you ask?
Oh man,
you're a thinker.
That's good. I've always been I'm always intrigued by Roosevelt.
Teddy or FDR?
Teddy. I would like to know when he put all the land aside and be like, what? What was his vision for 1,000 years? You know, we've seen what happens now, but just I would just love to know how he had this vision to set aside all these great spaces and protect them. It's probably the person I'm most intrigued with all the time, and some of the things that he did and got away. You know, went on giant hunting safaris and all kinds of things like that. Yeah,
this is where my ignorance is going to come in. Did he start the national parks or something? Is that what?
Yeah, he didn't start them, but he put, he put the vast majority of anything that's set aside in national parks, wilderness areas, anything like that. He put those aside. So
what was the talking point on it? Do you know? What's the press release say as to why? Because I like the question, what was your 1,000-year vision? I doubt that was in there, but what was his reason? Was it just,
I don't know. I think he was just seeing a lot of them. He was a big hunter. He did a lot he was a big birder. He was a birder and just conservationist. That was a time when everything was expanding and we were using up all of our natural resources at breakneck speed and didn't think anything of it. I think he just wanted to protect those things. He had a right-hand man. I know the story goes that they were putting, they put these land, the Congress was going to stop him from putting all this land aside. And just basically laid out a map and said oh, is this ground? We don't know what anything is, but let's make this a national forest. It was anything they could set aside, they did in a hurry. And so, that's kind of his story.
That's a good one. I love it.
Yeah. He's a good one to know.
Yeah. I like that. Fun fact, I played him in a play in high school called Arsenic I didn't play him. I played a crazy nephew who thought he was him in a high school play called Arsenic and Old Lace. It's actually a pretty big book from way back when, but about these two old ladies who see older single men, widowed men, as just being sad and needing to be euthanized. So they bring them over, they treat them well, but they put arsenic in their drink. And they have a crazy nephew, Teddy who thinks he's Teddy Roosevelt, who buries these men in the Panama Canal, which is a trench in his basement. Yep. I played that guy.
Nice.
That's what they thought of me in high school. So that's my closest connection to Teddy Roosevelt.
That's interesting. I didn't think we'd go there today, but I'm glad you dug that up.
You never know. You never know. Matt Bose, where can people learn more about you? A LinkedIn profile, Instagram, social media, email, whatever you want to put out there.
Yeah, you can follow mattbose.com. Was my business. And then LinkedIn, email at hello@mattbose.com. Yeah.
Perfect. I appreciate you being on, man. Hopefully see you at a future event. Lake Oconee maybe, or no?
I'll be in Madison here, but not Lake Oconee.
I'll miss Madison. I was going to go to that, but living down here just didn't make it out for me. So, well, we'll see you at one of them, but I appreciate you coming on.
All right. Thanks, Jamie.